wanted to take a look at the jungle changes and see if it actually was ruined. Now, there's three main things that happened during the preseason. First of all, jungle camps respawn 30 seconds faster. Second, overall gold and experience is down. And third, catch-up experience is removed. And where this lands for us is that jungle is just strictly weaker in 2020 than it was in 2019. And I went and I looked at some of the stats behind this. If you actually compare day one junglers here in the LEC to 2019 summer's average, they're hitting level 6 45 seconds slower, and they're hitting level 11 3 minutes slower. That is a very big difference. Now, it does come at the benefit that Gromp now gives you more experience and gives you enough to hit level 3 if you include it in your first 3 camps. So I want to take a look at the top 5 junglers from day one to see, does this mean we get any real changes? And the simple answer is not really. We still see Kiana, we still see Gragas, but I think some of the big buffs actually came to our single target clearers, the Elise, the Lee Sin, the Jarvans of the world that can now look for earlier and healthier ganks. But that's just the golden experience part of it. The other half was actually the time it takes for camps to respawn. And if you think about it, 2 minutes is roughly the amount of time it takes to full clear, recall, and get back onto the map. And 2 minutes is also how long it takes for camps to respawn now, which means that effectively, if you look at this play with Trick, he full clears his jungle and runs back out there. He already has camps that he needs to be farming. This means there's no longer that 30-second buffer, that 30-second window where you used to be able to go gank a lane, or go put down some vision, or even perhaps go help your laner push out the wave. So you have to be very efficient with your time now, or you're simply going to be losing out on gold and experience. So stop full clearing your jungle. That is going to be a mistake. And if you watch some of our pro players, you're going to see them actually donating a lot of their camps over to the rest of their team. That means the later on we get into the match, when you know you're ganking bot side or going for a dragon down there, tell your top laner, farm Krugs, farm Raptors, give up the experience, because by the time you make it up there anyways, those camps are going to be respawning. So is the jungle ruined? Yes, but at least on average, junglers still win 50% of their games. Back to you, Shocks.
How do you see the state of the jungle in 2020, Vedius?
Well, as a mid laner, I'm very happy because I just get to take Endless Raptors every single game, and because they respawn so quickly, I get all that additional experience. But I think it's a lot more about the solo laners right now because, as you were saying, Yamato, the jungle camps, they're not the same objective that they used to be.
For sure, like in mid-game, always there are objectives, there are the dragons, the rift trails, which we like to talk about, but pro teams always look for the outer towers, and in between those movements, you always take the enemy jungle. And that was so valuable in the past. You denied the enemy jungler, you got ahead in XP, you got gold, you basically took 2 CS for the price of 1. Basically, you take a Gromp away, you get a Gromp. Easy math. I'm not going to do any more math, I think that's dangerous. And with that in mind, when you clear one side, you can only control one side of the map, and the enemy jungle could be like, it's fine, I'll just take the other side, because it just spawns over and over. And it gives you no value at all, and I think this is a big cause why the games are so slow. It's really difficult to snowball.
Do you think it's difficult to snowball, but on the other hand, it also seems, well, you know, I'm just going to take the camps over and over and over, and there's a lot of thinking gone out of it, because you'll be able to take something regardless?
I think it's a situation where right now junglers are doing a cost-benefit analysis of what's more valuable. Do we just focus on clearing the jungle, or do we actually just focus on getting junglers that don't need a huge amount of resources early and actually just do a lot of damage inherently? And that's why we're seeing the Elises, the Gragases, the Lee Sins who can just invest into these early ganks, and then later on they don't offer as much value, and instead you just funnel all these resources into your carries, because the jungle is in a state where I do not feel that past the 15-20 minute mark, junglers can have the same impact that they used to have.
I think also to add to that point, in general, always at the beginning of a split, teams tend to be very, very careful. I think getting early ganks is very difficult. We saw Selfmade having a fantastic start. Flash on mid, flash on top, but then he realized, I am 10 CS behind, I need to farm it out. And then we didn't see a repeat gank, so it's a very difficult contrast to make, because in solo you can spam gank, in competitive people don't die.
Jumping on that point of teams being careful in the beginning of the split, we did notice, and we also saw it in LPL, that the games are longer, they are slower, and besides the changes in the jungle, what do you think is attributing to this fact?
I think one of the biggest things is that a lot of our snowball mechanics have been weakened. Getting early dragons don't have the same impact that they had before. Turret plating now gives you less gold, so investing in it doesn't give you the same advantage that it used to. Baron is 30 seconds shorter than it used to be, which might not seem like a long time, but it really does influence your ability to stay on those consistent sieges. And we're seeing all these small things kind of add up, along with the overall meta change, where I overall think that we're seeing a lot more tanks and teamfight comps than we used to.
For sure. Just to add to the point about dragons, the old Mountain Drake made it very easy to take
That's
Nash.
true.
The old Infernal also made it a lot easier to take Nash and was double in terms of how much stats you got. In terms of the meta as well, everyone's like, okay, we're going to focus on the dragons, we're going to focus on the objectives, we're going to pick a lot of tanks because Conqueror got nerfed, and there's a whole discussion about why tanks are played, but this is just the meta. Also, Leon and Nautilus are pretty busted.
Yeah, and I guess for teams, it's also kind of muscle memory, right? Like, of course, we're going to fight for the dragon because that's what we've always done. But now you think they have to take, into consideration, no, it's actually better for us to invest in some other things.
I think that we might see an evolution in the meta and how teams are approaching the game, because each individual Drake is so much worse than it used to be. If you manage to get a gold lead, maybe get a tower for every Drake, maybe a Rift Herald, maybe some plating, maybe some CS, maybe that gold is going to be so impactful that by the time the team that has the 3 Drakes want to fight on 4th, maybe the enemy team is just stronger because of the snowball of the gold.
Yeah, interesting. We'll see how that evolves. Also talking about some new AD carries in the bot lane, who we saw yesterday, 1-1 for Senna and 2-2 for Aphelios, respectively. What do we think about the OP level of both champions after what we saw yesterday?
I think they both have their strengths and weaknesses, but they definitely have a lot more strengths relative to many other AD carries that are available right now. We've seen that they are very high on the priority list of different teams, but depending on which team you speak to, will tell you which one is more important. Personally, I'm a big fan of Aphelios. I think he is far too versatile. I think that he can just do too many things. And in the hands of a good AD carry player, I think that he is just extremely difficult to deal with.
For sure. I think difficult to deal with, also difficult to play. I am yet to see that person, that player, to really have a standout performance on Aphelios. So I have my kind of reservations because I saw some LPL performances, not the greatest. Some performances yesterday as well, not the greatest. I think Senna is a lot easier to execute because she deals with poke, she's long range, she scales super well. There is no drawback at all with playing Senna, while with Aphelios, you need to fight in specific timings, when you have the right guns drawn, when you have the right guns lined up as well, and then it's like almost like Mega Gnar. That's how I would kind of compare it.
Yeah, a hard champion to perfectly master, which is why I think we'll see stellar performances as we continue. Maybe not immediately on day one.